Today we study 8 hours. If you've spent any time on the educational side of the internet recently, you've probably seen the formula. A beautifully lit desk, a time-lapse of someone writing notes in a flawless calligraphy, somehow, lo-fi beats playing in the background, and a caption that says something very cheesy like, "No excuses, we work while they sleep," or whatsoever.
Aside from how cliche it is and how kind of cheesy the captions are, we can't deny that it looks kind of gorgeous, and it looks inspiring. We've also taken our fair share of inspiration from these kinds of videos. But if we're being entirely honest, it's a symptom of a much larger, incredibly exhausting disease. Welcome everyone. Let's quickly lay down our cards. Why are we starting this channel, and why should you care?
Over the last 5 years of navigating our high school life, we've witnessed a profound amount of absurdity. The system is designed to turn students into hyper-efficient machines that work unconsciously even, but in the process, it completely drains them, and at least it did it for me. And yeah, any genuine intellectual curiosity just gets killed immediately. So we looked around at our peers and realized that we wanted to build a space to actually think, because most of us forgot how to do it.
Exactly. We aren't here to give you generic study tips or tell you to grind harder, because when we did that to ourselves, we ended up burning out, and that didn't pay off that well. So we have actual, self-care kind of tips that won't ruin your life for your high school years. So we want to dive into literature, sociology, philosophy, politics, and art. Not as dry academic subjects, but as lenses to understand the madness we are all living through. Plus, since we've been deep in the trenches of international university applications and academic deadlines, we'll be dropping some real unfiltered insight on navigating that entire maze, because most people in your life probably won't be as genuine as you think and will, in fact, glaze over how much they've been studying or how much they've been putting effort into their university applications, just so you feel worse about yourself.
But happily today, we're starting with a topic that hit both of us like a freight train over the past year. A phenomenon we call toxic motivation. I thought it was really cool to not be motivated by, saying, "Oh, I'm strong, I'm amazing," but instead just saying like, "If you don't study, you'll die tomorrow." But apparently it doesn't work that well. So we're gonna dive into that topic now.
Honestly, I think it's a trap that almost every ambitious student falls into, and it's destroying our ability to just exist. And if you don't know, both of us are very overachieving and kind of perfectionist people that will genuinely make their lives hell just so they can achieve something. And so let's unpack that.
So let's start by defining the beast. What actually is toxic motivation, how we describe it, and what are the potential effects that you will experience if you try to enjoy the good side of toxic motivation? Because there is a massive difference between having a strong work ethic and being toxically motivated, we want to investigate more on that.
For me, toxic motivation is an external system you build in your head where you lose the ability to hit the brakes. But not only do you lose the ability to hit the brakes, you intentionally want to lose that ability. For me especially, I remember when I was studying, I wanted to get into the flow state so bad that I would beat myself up over it every single study session. And when I couldn't, it was a bad day for me. So you know that feeling when you can't get yourself to start the task, but once you're finally forced into the task, you don't stop until you're physically sick or burnt out? It's that inability to regulate that's honestly both what the result of toxic motivation is, and usually what people who admire this kind of motivation end up glorifying.
It is deeply rooted in validation. When you're in this state, you aren't just studying or working because you find the material fascinating or just so much fun that you can't keep your eyes off of it, or even because you genuinely want a good future for your own well-being. It becomes frantic, desperate effort to prove your worth to your environment, to your parents, teachers, peers, and that hypercritical version of yourself that doesn't shut the hell up and constantly tells you you're worthless, you're not enough, just work harder, you'll get there.
So true, because I remember when I was in the trenches of toxic motivation, we had read a book at school. It was Moby Dick. And when I tell you, this book isn't that interesting at all. Okay, there's a metaphor, and it's kind of like a cult classic, whatever. But if you ask anyone in our like community if the book was engaging at all, they would say no. But since I was in like the peak of my toxic motivation era, I still remember that book as like a very fun and interesting story. Looking back, it wasn't, to be honest. I don't really find whales that engaging. And like this kind of manifests in your daily schedule as well. You try to cram a productive task into literally every single second of the day. I remember studying on the metro or this like train just so I wouldn't waste my time. Like, what are you gonna do there? Standing? You're commuting? Might as well work. If you have a 15-minute commute, you feel like you must listen to an educational podcast or review flashcards. If you're eating lunch, you should be watching a documentary. So while your friends are eating lunch, you should be running to the library and studying and solving a few more past papers just so you can get 1 mark higher.
And God forbid you actually fail to meet that impossible standard for 1 single day. What happens?
Well, total existential dread. You don't just think, oh, I had an unproductive day. You think, I am fundamentally inadequate, I am worthless, and I'm going to ruin my entire life. It's so over for bro.
And here is the ultimate irony, the psychological paradox. This extreme pressure is the single biggest trigger for chronic procrastination. If you're a perfectionist like us, you would know you would want to start a project, you'd want to do something, but you just wait for that perfect moment that, feels right. It never comes, by the way. Your brain views the upcoming task as a torture session because you make it that way. So it triggers a decision paralysis to protect you. That's what your brain does, it protects you. But sometimes it also harms you with toxic motivation, saying you're worthless. So you want to work, you need to work, but the toxic weight of it makes you stare at a blank screen for hours, paralyzing you. So it's so over for bro now.
Let's bring this down to earth. Let's talk about the reality of what this looked like for us during the mock exam period. So, we forgot to mention, but we both recently graduated from the International Baccalaureate, aka 2 years of living hell. And because that was peak toxic motivation culture, like, I remember everyone was involved in it. Even the people we thought didn't study at all during previous years had suddenly become war machines that were built to solve every single past paper.
And to my opinion, the mocks were just a psychological experiment gone wrong. Like, for example, in the air, the hallways changed. It felt like almost impossible to breathe. Not because there was a lack of oxygen, because there was a lack of taking a breath. No one took a breath. It was too much of wasted time, and so everyone just crammed overnight. They didn't even sleep most of the time. For example, you'd walk into class, and instead of normal conversations like, how you doing? How's life? The conversations would be, it was an immediate cross-examination. How many hours did you sleep last night? 2? Oh, I didn't sleep at all. I was solving past papers all night. What the hell?
It was like a race to the bottom of misery. Who went there faster? Where and whoever is the most sleep deprived wins the badge of honor, and people paraded how little they slept around the hallways. It was kind of like a rite of passage for every single overachiever in the community. And that environment breeds an insane level of peer comparison. You start viewing your closest friends not as a support system, but as benchmarks you have to surpass.
And this comparison leads straight into the decision paralysis we just mentioned. I remember sitting at my desk during mocks, surrounded by piles of notes, folders, and past exam prompts and past papers. And the stakes felt so incredibly high that my brain just jammed. It stopped working. I couldn't decide whether to study history, or English, or prep for biology. It was so hard to even decide which one was supposed to be a priority and which is relative, but at which of them was I behind? Because everyone studied like 10 hours of English B. If you know, you know, you can't study 10 hours of English B for a day. So instead of studying, I just spent 3 hours organizing my pens and feeling my heart race and watching study vlogs that didn't actually work and were impossible to make. And after a while, which I have realized that all of the videos were made from the same parts of videos that were just cut and put together in a different way each time.
And the casualty of that is your humanity. Your social life completely evaporates, and you aren't even replacing it with quality work. You just pretend to. Because if everyone's studying 6 hours, but you finished your work in 3 hours, that means you did something wrong, or you missed out on something that everyone else knew, but only you in the world missed out on. So you're just replacing it with guilt, honestly. I don't remember a single time where I've spent more time studying than I actually thought I had to without feeling guilty about spending dead time, honestly. I would just be better off sleeping or, I don't know, reading a book.
And most of the time you go into autopilot. You aren't actually experiencing your life. You're just watching it pass by from the window of a train that you cannot stop. You cannot hit the brakes. You tell yourself, I'll hang out with my friends after mocks, which leads to 6 months of not seeing each other. And you say, I'll start enjoying my hobbies after I get my predicted grades, which I always cut my nails to play the guitar. I never, held it for once. And yeah, you also say, I'll start living my life after I move abroad to university or after I get my results. But it never actually happens, and you just stop your life, stop living everything, stop thinking for yourself, but you're just putting your entire youth on pause for a future that keeps shifting its start date.
So, how did we get here? Because we weren't born with this desperate urge to burn ourselves out. This is learned behavior, and we need to look at the external forces driving it. Because I used to be a happy kid. I do not remember studying a single hour until high school, but the peer pressure and honestly a lot of the other external factors did force me to become what I am currently.
First up, the internet. Let's talk about the StudyTube phenomenon, specifically the aesthetic vloggers, the classic study girl channels. I know that all of you watched it. I know that you did. You tried to, force yourself into thinking that if they can study this much, I can study this much too. Look, they make it look so easy. They just have their matcha lattes. And they just sit down at a library and study for 25 hours a day. So easy, you can do it.
Before I start anything, I just want to put a disclaimer that $1,000,000,000 Lululemon pink defined jacket or that rose gold MacBook will not make you one of those people, because those things are purely just to market more products to you. And as we've said before, most of these people don't even study as much as they show. Those are the same clips cut and edited back together so that it looks like a full day of studying. Some may do, but this doesn't mean that you have to force yourself to watch these. At first glance, they seem great. They show you how to organize your life, keep your desk clean, and stay focused. But when you consume that content daily, it becomes an addiction. It gamifies education in a really unhealthy way. Suddenly, studying isn't about learning, it's about the performance of studying. Studying until my face mask turns clear isn't supposed to be showing anyone anything except for the internet how long you studied for while quote-unquote taking care of yourself. I'm sorry, but the face mask isn't gonna do the self-care. You can.
It's all about the tools. I'm not gonna name the app, but the forest apps that you pretend to study at, people show 10 hours of studying. I mean, we tried it. We actually tried it. We thought, oh my god, this is gonna boost my productivity so much. And the next week, we just realized people showed 10 hours, and it was so unmotivating because, I am behind. What the hell is 3 hours a day compared to a 12-hour? And we just realized that they actually slept during that time. So do not compare yourself with the apps or the people that show you that they actually do study for 11 hours a day. This turns productivity into a sport. You're competing against an algorithm and a stranger across the world to see who can sit in a chair for 12 hours straight without looking at a wall. It just forces you into a performative, hyper-competitive mindset where numbers matter more than the actual comprehension. I remember, I studied biology for almost, at most 2 hours a day, and people would study it for 6 hours and still understand less content than I did. And when I asked them, like, how do you study, they would just, I don't know, I read it through, I took notes, look at the notes, they're just so aesthetically written in calligraphic fonts, where I was just like chilling most of the time.
And it's not just the internet. The internet just monetizes a pressure that already exists in our homes and schools. We are constantly suffocated by the weight of expectations, teachers who treat their subject like it's the only thing that matters in your life. Like, what do you mean I have to create a presentation about a book that I will only see once in my life? I mean, I did them, but was it worth it? Who knows?
And let's look at the sociological reality for this. For our generation, the economic climate is terrifying, let me tell you. There's a systematic anxiety, like everyone is anxious about everything. Many of us feel this intense pressure because we see academic excellence as the only ticket out. And for like some countries, we're not gonna tell you where we're from, but where we're from, it happens like that. If you're not rich, you have to study, you have to be successful, you have to be able to achieve that impossible academic standard that you put yourself, or the system put yourself up to. And well, it is a desperate attempt at class mobility, or at least maintaining stability. We feel like if we don't get into that specific top tier university abroad, if we do not build a perfect CV for 30 different extracurriculars that we pretended to do, but we actually just showed off our networking skills because no one actually did those. And we're going to fall through the cracks of failing economy. No wonder we're hyper criticizing ourselves into like thinking, oh, I am poor, I am stupid, I am doomed, I have to study 15 hours a day. Nah, that doesn't happen.
You literally can't do it without a voice in the back of your head whispering, "You're wasting time. Your competitors are studying right now. You could be reading a sociology paper instead of this trash novel."
The longing for some enjoyment in our lives, oh, absolutely. The guilt that when you do not do something excruciatingly painful, you just feel that agonizing guilt that tortures you all the time. It doesn't shut up. And have you tried to just sit down and play a video game recently, or pick up a fiction book, or sit down with a canvas and just paint something? Or play your guitar that you haven't touched and therefore it has spider webs on it now? You probably haven't tried those because of the feeling that, as I've said, tortures you all the fucking time.
And by the way, the whole thing about enjoying yourself is so real because after I graduated, I played The Sims for 2 weeks, non-stop, no sleep, not eating. I forgot to eat. That's how desperate I was to have some dopamine, because I remember when we were studying in high school, we felt like dopamine was something to be so scared of. Dopamine detoxes, deleting social media, turning your phone gray. I went with it without Instagram for 2 years, and it was not enjoyable, and I missed out on so much. And because your brain is being denied actual restorative rest, it starts to malfunction. The symptoms of toxic motivation aren't just fatigue, it's severe forgetfulness. Forgetting basic words or where you put your keys because your cognitive load is maxed out. It's constant boredom, social withdrawal, sudden bursts of irritability or anger over tiny things, and an overachieving, paralyzed anxiety about the future. Because if you can't get into that top university or get that IB score, then you're done.
This experience is just so real. For example, during my time in IB, I learned another language because I want to move abroad to that country, and studying law in there requires another language. So now I could speak 3 languages, but at the same time, because of the studying fatigue that I climbed into, I just couldn't speak any of them, and I was just like trying to sign language the things to my friends or family, and they would be like, what does that word mean? You built a sentence in 3.5 languages. Who understands that? So it is like, you just end up getting trapped in a state of cliffhanger brain rot. You're just too mentally exhausted to do any real deep work, but you're too anxious and guilty to actually lie down and sleep. Like, I remember I had to sleep most of the days because, well, it's just like, sucking all my energy. The school was a weird environment, but I just didn't sleep. I tried to, I don't know, write an essay instead and failed at it too. So you sit in the middle, you doom scroll short form content for hours, which, by the way, you are dead seriously scared of because, well, dopamine is a bad thing, isn't it? And, well, after some hours waiting for the panic cycle to kick in so you can start to grind all over again, you just waste your time.
So if you're watching this and recognize yourself in these patterns, first of all, take a breath. You're not alone and you aren't broken. You're just responding to a profoundly broken system. And honestly, I would be very glad if someone else filmed a video like this sharing their experiences, because during the time while I was going through these things, I felt so incredibly alone. Even though we both went through the same thing, well, you just want to hear it from someone else, a stranger. So, hope this helped.
So we don't have all the answers yet. We're still trying to figure out how to untangle our own brains from this hustle culture. We almost went crazy. Crazy? I was crazy once.
So we want to build a community of people who want to be intellectual, ambitious, and, well... what was I saying? Yeah, so basically ambitious and deeply curious without living on autopilot, because being on autopilot killed that wonder inside of me that actually made me who I was, and it killed my creativity as well. I took art as a class, and even that turned into something that was an academic performance. Who did the most impressive artwork and whatever. So please don't make life a living hell for yourself, because that's what makes you an intellectual.
So if you're tired of the toxic hustle and want to join us for some real, unfiltered discussions about things that actually matter, hit that subscribe button down there somewhere. Drop a comment below with your own experiences. How did your last exam period treat you? And do you still have some slight mental health issues that lasted for 4 years after high school? Just tell us your experiences. Where do you draw the line between healthy drive and toxic motivation?
Let's start talking. Let's stop grinding ourselves to dust. We'll see you in the next video, and have a good study session. Bye.